Hi everyone, so this is the last video in the lesson and it's all about dilations, which means that we're going to take the shapes that we have and make them bigger or smaller. Now, that doesn't necessarily change the way that they look, it just means that we multiply their sides by some number and once again it'll make it bigger or smaller. And I think all of the examples and all of your self-checks make the shape bigger, but potentially you can multiply it and make it smaller as well. So for the first two examples, once again we have two shapes, a white shape and a blue shape, and we're going to change or just start with the white shape and get to the blue shape. Figure out what we had to do to get to the blue shape. Now, the easiest way to do this actually is to find 2 points, like, for example, on example number 1, we could do like U and U prime and find those 2 points just to begin with. And remember, dilations are really similar to the rest of these transformations that we've already talked about, that what one point does, everything else does. So if you can figure out what happens to one point on here, then the rest of the points will follow. So let's talk about just point U. So regular point U, which is white, I know I'm drawing in blue, but which is white, is at the point -2, 2. And then U prime, or the new point U, is at -4, 4. All right, so now what we need to do is figure out, well, what did we have to multiply by to get from -2, 2 to -4, 4? Well, it should be pretty simple, but to get from -2 to -4, I have to multiply by 2. And to get from 2 to 4, I have to multiply by 2, which means that this is a dilation of 2. And that's my answer. All right, so let's do that again with the second example. Now, the second example, some of the points aren't actually on points. They're like half points. What I would suggest is that you pick a point that actually lies on a grid intersection. So for this one, let's try T. So the regular point T, or the original point T, is at 2, 0. And then T prime, or our new T, is at 3, 0. So we need to figure out how to get from 2 to 3, or 2, 0 to 3, 0. Now this one's not as easy because it's not just a really quick, oh, this is what's happening. So when you get numbers that you're not as familiar with how to get from one to the other, what you're going to do is take your T prime number and divide it by your regular T number, or the prime portion, the new shape divided by the old shape, which in this case would give us like 3, 0 divided by 2, 0, but we're just going to use the front numbers, so it'll be 3 over 2. Well, what that tells me is that to get from 2 to 3, I had to multiply by 3 over 2, which means my answer is that it's a dilation of 3 over 2. And that's my answer. Okay, so now let's look at number 3 and 4, where we have to draw the shape. And for number 3, it's asking us to dilate by a factor of 3. Now, this one, like in the rotations video, sometimes it's easier to actually draw all of the points out or write all of the points out first. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start with point U right here. And point U is at 1, -1. Then we're going to do point V, which is at 0, 1. And then we're going to do point W, which is at -1, 0. And because it has a dilation of 3, what we're going to do is multiply all of those numbers by 3. So when I multiply the U by 3, I'm going to multiply both of them by 3. So 1 times 3 is 3, and -1 times 3 is -3. Then for V, I'd get 0 times 3, which is still 0, and then 1 times 3, which is 3. And for W, I'm going to get -1 times 3, which is -3, and 0 times 3, which is still just 0. So now let's plot those new points. We'd have 3, -3, which puts us right there for our new U prime. Then 0, 3, which puts us right there for our V prime. Notice how they all kind of line up with each other. You could draw a straight line to each point. And then W is -3, 0, which is right there. And now we can just connect all of our points, and this is our new shape. So this is taking that shape and multiplying it by 3, or multiplying all of the sides by 3. Okay, let's do this last example. In this last example, it's a dilation of 2.5. So we're going to do the same thing as we just did, write down all of the points, but now instead of multiplying by 3, we're going to multiply by 2.5. So our point B is at -1, 1. C is at 2, 2, and D is at 2, -2. So now let's multiply by 2.5. And this one, calculator will definitely be handy. And you're more than welcome to use a calculator always. So -1 times 2.5 gives you -2.5. And 1 times 2.5 is 2.5. Then 2 times 2.5 is 5. And 2 times 2.5 is also 5. Then we've got 2 times 2.5, again 5, and -2 times 2.5 gives me -5. So those didn't end up too bad. They're actually pretty numbers. So B will go -2.5. The new B will be -2.5 and 2.5. Notice you end up in the middle of like an intersection point. That's totally fine. Sometimes that'll happen. And then C, where we've got 5, 5, which is right here. So that's our new C prime. And then D is 5, -5, which is right here. So that's our D prime. And now we just connect all of the dots. And this is our new shape after a dilation of 2.5. And that's how we do dilations.